Most people think they know Rio de Janeiro. They carry its iconic imagery in their minds like a well-worn postcard. The endless curves of Ipanema and Copacabana, the hypnotic pounding heartbeat of samba drums, the feathered delirium of Carnival, and the eternal silent embrace of Christ, the Redeemer against a postcard-perfect sky. This is the Rio sold to the world, a promised land of sun, celebration, and sublime geography. But Rio possesses a second, deeper face, a living portrait that never smiles for the cameras or poses for the tourist's lens. This is the Rio that emerges from the shadows when the stadium lights dim, the final parade float is stored away, and the last tourist flight ascends from Galileo. It is the city of profound duality, where the stunning panorama and the daily grind are not separate stories but intertwined paragraphs in the same complex, unvarnished narrative. To understand this other Rio, one must first deconstruct the postcard. The famous beaches are not just playgrounds, they are a city's living room, its open-air clinic for the soul, and a neutral territory where social hierarchies are momentarily flattened by sand and surf. The Carnival is not merely a party. It is a complex, year-long social project of community workshops in forgotten warehouses, a pressure valve for societal tensions, and a fierce competition where neighborhood pride is the highest stake. Christ, the Redeemer, is more than a statue. For many, he is a silent witness to a covenant broken and renewed daily, observing the stark divide between the paved streets of the wealthy South and the labyrinthine alleys of the North. The postcard is real, but it is a single, brilliant brushstroke on a vast, dark, and intricately textured canvas. Chapter 2. The city that never fully sleeps. Rio does not know true sleep. It merely slumbers with one eye wide open, its senses perpetually tuned to the night's frequency. In the hollow hours past midnight, when the ocean's breath is a soft sigh against the deserted shore, the city's concrete veins carry a different life. Avenidas echo with the solitary, rhythmic click of a security guard's boots, with the fragmented whispers of a hushed argument drifting from a top-floor window, with the sudden Doppler scream of an ambulance racing toward another unseen crisis. In the hills, a generator coughs to life. In an all-night bakery, metal trays clatter. This city dreams in fragments and jump cuts, its collective subconscious perpetually alert, its rest a tense, negotiated ceasefire with the dawn. This half-sleep is a learned instinct, a rhythm set by the city's own bipolar pulse. In the wealthier, tourist-heavy zones, the night is a commodity, a curated experience of rooftop bars and sushi deliveries. But cross an invisible line, and the night becomes a different entity. Here, sleep is shallow, interrupted by the distant, ambiguous pops that could be fireworks or gunfire, a duality every resident learns to decipher. People sleep with phones charged and within reach, not for social media, but for the neighborhood WhatsApp group that buzzes with real-time alerts. Motion on the hill, strange car on the corner, all quiet now. It's a form of communal vigilance, a distributed nervous system that keeps watch, ensuring that while the body of the city rests, its spirit remains on sentry duty, forever caught between the desire for peaceful dreams and the imperative to stay awake. Chapter 3 Hills, with memories the Moros of Rio, are not passive scenery. They are active, silent historians. They are verdant, vertical archives where the city's true biography is written, not in ink, but in the mortar between bricks, in the wear on stone steps, in the faded paint of a humble chapel. Every serpentine staircase hewn from the hillside, every shadowed beco that snakes between homes is a shelf holding volumes of unspoken history, tales of migration from the arid, northeast AV communities forged through collective labor, muchida, of the daily grinding struggle for basic dignity, and of small profound victories celebrated behind closed doors. These hills do not merely watch over Rio, they remember its every joy and sorrow, holding the memory of the city in their soil and stone. To walk these alleys is to read a tactile history of resistance and adaptation. The electrical wires, spiderwebbing from a single, official pole, tell a story of ingenuity and contested access. The vibrant murals are not just art but territorial markers and community chronicles, depicting local heroes, lost children, and spiritual guides. The soundscape itself is an archivism mix of evangelical hymns, pagode rhythms, and the shouts of children carries the cultural layers of decades. Each home, often built incrementally, room by room, as resources allow, stands as a monument to a family's perseverance. The hill is a living organism, its growth organic and unplanned, a direct challenge to the rigid grid of the asphalt city below. It remembers the eviction attempts, the promises of urbanization, and the resilient communities that outlasted every plan, making the hills not just places people live, but protagonists in Rio's ongoing story. Chapter 4. The silence between gunshots. In certain corners of this city, silence is not an absence of sound, but a physical presence, a thick, heavy air that presses on the eardrums. It is the palpable space between noises where the unsaid gathers. Its inhabitants are fluent in its dialects. They can distinguish the fertile silence of a peaceful afternoon from the brittle, metallic silence that descends like a sudden frost, signaling a shift in the neighborhood's unseen currents. This silence speaks of hastily pulled shutters, of children called indoors mid-game, of a communal, bated breath. It is a language of trauma and hypervigilance, a grim literacy born of necessity, its nuances forever foreign to the outsider's ear. This heavy quiet is the city's true soundtrack in these places, more defining than the sporadic violence that interrupts it. It is a silence loaded with collective memory and anticipation. Elders can recall when it meant something else perhaps, the quiet of a lazy Sunday decades ago. Now, it is a negotiated state. It dictates the rhythm of daily life, when to go to the market, when to let the kids play outside, when to venture out for work. This silence also breeds a profound, unspoken solidarity. A neighbor's glance carries a paragraph of meaning. A slight nod can be a warning or an In this environment, noise, real carefree noise like unrestrained laughter or loud music, becomes a radical, temporary reclaiming of space, a brief exorcism of fear. But it always gives way again to the watchful quiet, the city's default setting in the shadows, where listening is a more vital sense than sight. Chapter 5. The Invisible Workers, long before the sun gilds the summit of Sugarloaf Mountain, Rio is roused from its half-sleep by a legion of unseen hands. The city is rebuilt each dawn by its invisible architects. Street sweepers push their brooms in a solitary dance, erasing the traces of yesterday's life. Bus drivers in dimly lit garages sip bitter coffee, mentally tracing their long routes. Bakers, faces glowing in oven light, shape the dough that will fuel the morning. Deliverymen stack crates with quiet efficiency. This parallel city operates in the pre-light, a fundamental ecosystem of labor that makes the glamorous, daytime Rio possible, yet whose individuals remain anonymous, essential ghosts in the machine of urban life. These workers form the city's foundational rhythm, a counterpoint to the celebrated Jachin Carioca. Theirs is a world of pre-dawn bus tickets, packed trains carrying a drowsy mass from the distant suburbs to the center, and the slow accumulation of calloused hands and weary bones. They are the domestic workers who board buses at 4 a.m. to arrive in wealthy condominiums by 7. The security guards who stand through the empty night shifts, the road workers repairing potholes under temporary lights. They navigate a city that often looks past them, their uniforms rendering them part of the urban furniture. Yet in their micro-interactions, the familiar nod to the same street sweeper every day, the bus driver who waits an extra second for a running passenger, they weave an invisible web of care and recognition that holds the fractured city together. Their shift ends as the city awakens to its postcard self, and they retreat. Their work complete, but their presence largely unacknowledged. The essential foundation upon which the day's spectacle is staged. Chapter 6. Beaches, after dark, when dusk bleeds into night and the final beach kiosk folds its chairs, Rio's shorelines undergo a metaphysical shift. The theater of bodies and commerce vanishes. What remains is raw element, the vast, dark plain of sand, and the relentless, booming monologue of the Atlantic. The beach transforms into a confessional for the solitary. Joggers pound the damp sand, running from oar to oar their thoughts. Couples sit wrapped in shared silence, staring at the infinite black horizon. Individuals stand ankle-deep in the froth, seeking answers or absolution from the cold, indifferent water. The performative joy of the day recedes, revealing the coastline's true, introspective soul, a place for melancholy, meditation, and confronting the self. This nocturnal beach is also a great social equalizer and a haven for the marginalized. It becomes a bedroom for the homeless, who find a relatively safe expanse to rest, their silhouettes small against the vastness. It is a meeting point for those seeking connection outside the glare of romantic, social, or otherwise. The darkness offers anonymity and a suspension of the day's rules. Chapter 7. The Broken Beauty. Rio's beauty is of a tragic, transcendent kind. It resembles a priceless, gilded mirror, dropped and meticulously repaired. The web of cracks is unmistakable, a permanent map of its fragility, yet it still captures and reflects dazzling light. Its splendor, the heart-stopping vista from Santa Teresa. The explosive purple of a jacaranda in bloom does not cancel out the scars of social fracture, violent history, and institutional neglect. Instead, the radiant and the wounded exist in a constant, dramatic tension. The beauty is not a lie, but a haunting truth that makes the imperfections beneath it more poignant, and the imperfections, in turn, make the beauty more astonishing and real. This coexistence creates a unique, often unsettling, aesthetic. A stunning view from a luxurious hotel balcony directly frames a sprawling favela, not as a blight but as an integral part of the composition. The vibrant, colorful houses of a hillside community are both a breathtaking spectacle of human adaptation and a testament to a lack of formal planning and services. Even the body culture on the beach, a celebration of health and form, exists alongside stories of eating disorders and the relentless pressure of perfection. To love Rio is to develop a taste for this broken beauty, to understand that its soul is in the contrast itself. It teaches that authenticity is not about purity, but about the raw, unedited juxtaposition of light and shadow, of triumph and struggle forever intertwined, in a landscape that refuses to be simply pretty demanding, instead to be seen as profoundly and complicatedly alive. Chapter 8. Forgotten Neighborhoods. There exist places in Rio's vast expanse that reside in a collective blind spot, territories even the most talkative carioca might omit from their mental map. These are not the photogenic favelas of the hills, but the distant, sprawling peripheries, the suburbios reached by long, tired train rides. Their omission is not denial of their existence, but an acknowledgement of their symbolism. They are living, breathing monuments to the city's broken promises, to master plans that rusted in drawers, to the Rio for all that never arrived. They are the stark, physical reminders of a future that was pledged and then abandoned. Places where the city's famous rhythm gives way to a different, stubborn beat of survival. In these neighborhoods, the relationship with the central city is one of extraction and neglect. They are reservoirs of labor, sending their inhabitants on epic daily commutes to serve, clean, and build the more celebrated parts of Rio. In return, they receive minimal infrastructure, sporadic public services, and a pervasive sense of abandonment. Yet, within this void, fierce micro-cities have emerged. Local commerce thrives on narrow streets. Community leaders organize where the state is absent. And vibrant cultural scenes from gospel choirs to grassroots funk party spults with life. These places are not voids. They are alternative Rios, with their own hierarchies, economies, and solidarities. They are forgotten not because they are empty, but because the city's narrative has deliberately turned its gaze away, unable or unwilling to reconcile their vibrant, demanding reality with the streamlined myth of the marvelous city. Chapter 9. Music as Survival. Here, music is far more than soundtrack or entertainment. It is a vital organ, a circulatory system for emotion and resistance. It is the community's therapist, its journalist, its revolutionary cry. When the weight of reality threatens to crush, music becomes the lever of relief. It is the defiant roar of baile funk reclaiming a public square, the melancholic poetry of a Carreño in a boteco, the spiritual cadence of a ponto in a It is the sound of a people asserting their humanity, forging identity in the crucible of hardship, and defiantly choosing to feel and express joy, rage, and love. It is the ultimate instrument of sanity. This sonic survival operates on multiple frequencies. In the funk parties, the overwhelming bass is a physical claim to space and a lyrical chronicle of the periphery's reality, its violence, its desires, its slang. In samba circles, the complex polyrhythms and improvised verses, parcedu alto, preserve history and offer social commentary, a school of wisdom and wit. In evangelical churches, the powerful, collective singing offers emotional release and a promise of a better world. Music provides the vocabulary for experiences that escape ordinary language. It transforms a crowded, hot bus into a momentary choir with a shared radio hit. It turns a funeral into a celebration of life with a sorrowful samba. In a city where official narratives often distort or ignore, music remains the most authentic, unfiltered archive of the people's truth, a necessary noise that drowns out the silence of neglect and declares, relentlessly, we are here. Chapter 10. The Smiles That Hide Hunger. The carioca smile is legendary, quick, sharp, and disarmingly bright. But sociology and psychology often animate that grin. It can be a masterful curtain drawn over an empty stomach, the anxiety of an eviction notice, the deep fatigue from a triple shift. In Rio, joy is frequently not a spontaneous emotion but a conscious performance, a courageous act of defiance against despair. The smile becomes a social armor, a declaration that one will not be defeated by circumstance, and a shared cultural code that says, we keep going, and we do it with style. It is both a mask and a flag. This culture of performed optimism is a complex social contract. It lubricates daily interactions in a stressful city, offering a moment of grace and connection amidst the struggle. The joke in the queue, the flirtatious banter with a stranger, the unwavering tutto bem, all good. Even when things are patently not, these are rituals of resilience. However, this constant performance demands a toll. It can mask real pain until it becomes unmanageable, privatize suffering, and place the burden of coping solely on the individual. The smile that hides hunger is a testament to human dignity, a refusal to be pitied, but it also speaks to a society that often expects its poorest to bear their burdens with a cheerful face, transforming a survival mechanism into a societal expectation, where the performance of well-being can sometimes be as exhausting as the hardship it conceals. Chapter 11. Children of the Streets. Some of Rio's children are handed a manual of street survival before they are given their first textbook. Their playgrounds are often zones of calculated risk, They learn to decode the body language of conflict before they learn the grammar of dreams. Their childhood is fast-forwarded, compressed by the pressures of their environment. Yet, in a miraculous act of resilience, childhood's essence persists. It flashes in the explosive glee of a goal scored with a ball of rags, in the concentrated tongue bite of a child coloring, in the awe at a kite soaring high above the fray. Hope, unkillable, nestles in the gaps of their hardened realities. These children navigate a world of adult complexities with a startling, premature wisdom. They know the value of a real from a fake police badge, the sound difference between fireworks and gunshots, which corners belong to which factions. School can be a sanctuary, but also a battleground where territorial disputes spill over. Their dreams are often immediate and tangible: a full meal, a safe walk home, a new pair of shoes. NGOs and community projects often become islands of normalcy, offering art, sports, and simply a place to be a child. In their eyes, one sees a flickering duality, the weary gaze of an old soul and the sudden, brilliant spark of unadulterated wonder. They are the city's most vulnerable paradox, both its greatest indictment for failing to protect them and its most potent source of hope, for their ability to find joy in the rubble speaks of a spirit that refuses to be extinguished. Chapter 12. Faith on every corner. From the Baroque opulence of colonial churches to the vibrant clappered igrejas evangelicas, from the discreet, sacred spaces of Carnival to the personal altars in countless living rooms, faith is the city's other infrastructure. When the secular institutions of the state security, justice, social welfare statter and fail, belief becomes the ultimate safety net. It provides a framework to interpret suffering, a community to replace isolation, and a promise of divine justice or solace that the earthly city consistently fails to provide. Faith is the scaffolding upon which millions hang their hopes, the spiritual rebar within the city's cracked concrete. This faith is active and entrepreneurial. Pentecostal churches offer not just salvation but practical aid, soup kitchens, drug rehabilitation programs, and job networks. Afro-Brazilian terreiros provide spiritual counseling and a deep connection to ancestry and nature, often serving as community centers. The syncretism is palpable. A figure of both a Catholic saint and an Arixa might share a home altar. Faith here is less about quiet contemplation and more about active seeking, a search for protection, for a breakthrough, for an explanation of the unexplainable. In a city where danger can feel random, faith offers a cosmology where nothing is accidental, where there is a higher plan or a spiritual battle behind every event. It is the lens through which chaos is made comprehensible and endurable, making every corner, church, or temple a potential lighthouse in the daily storm. Chapter 13. Love in a harsh city. Love in Rio is not a gentle sonnet. It is a passionate, urgent chronica. It burns with an accelerated intensity. In a reality where the future feels uncertain and time feels like a precious, leaking commodity, emotions are distilled to their potent essence. People love ardently, argue theatrically, forgive passionately. Relationships are lived in the vivid present tense, fueled by an unspoken understanding that moments must be seized and felt with full force. They love as if each kiss were the first and last, because, in the back of a collective mind shaped by loss, the awareness lingers that for anyone, it could be. This intensity makes love both a refuge and a potential wound. It is a deliberate construction of a private world of meaning against the chaotic public. When couples create their oases in small apartments, on deserted beach spots at night, in the shared understanding, forged in adversity. Family ties are ferociously strong, often the only reliable institution. But this same intensity can magnify jealousy, betrayal, and heartbreak. Love stories here are often marked by a poignant brevity or a dramatic, operatic quality. Yet the city continues to love unabashedly. The public displays of affection, the lingering kisses at bus stops, the elderly couples holding hands on the sidewalk are acts of faith. In loving fiercely, Rio's residents perform the ultimate act of defiance against the harshness around them, insisting on the primacy of the heart in a landscape that often seems to value only strength or survival. Chapter 14. The City of Contrasts. Rio's inequality is not hidden in back alleys. It is displayed in a brutal open-air diorama of contrast. The floor-to-ceiling windows of multi-million-dollar apartments in Leblon offer direct, panoramic views into the dense brick labyrinths of Vidigal or Rochina, clinging to the same mountain. Luxury helicopters, the chariots of the elite, thrum over neighborhoods where access to clean water is a daily logistical battle. This jarring juxtaposition is not a secret shame. It is a normalized, inescapable feature of the visual landscape. It is a constant, silent sermon on disparity, a daily reminder that two planets orbit within the same city limits. Living within this contrast requires a practiced cognitive dissonance. The wealthy develop a gaze that looks at the favela as scenery, but not into it as a reality. The poor look up at the condominiums as symbols of an inaccessible world. Yet these worlds are inextricably linked by a flow of people: the domestic worker who enters the luxury building through the service entrance, the doorman who protects a world he cannot afford, the entrepreneur from the favela who provides services to the rich. The contrast is not static. It is a dynamic, tense relationship of dependency and disregard. It is felt in the quality of the asphalt, the frequency of garbage collection, the presence of police. This normalization of extreme disparity is perhaps Rio's most profound and troubling characteristic, a visual habit that numbs the conscience and frames inequity not as a problem to be solved, but as a permanent dramatic feature of the city's aesthetic. Chapter 15, Survival Instinct. Residing in Rio hones a person's primal instincts to a razor's edge. You develop an urban sixth sense, a hyper-awareness of your environment. You learn to scan a street in a microsecond, to interpret a tone of voice or a sudden shift in a crowd's murmur. You know when a friendly demeanor is your best defense, and when invisibility is your only asset. You master the calculus of movement. When to stroll, when to stride with purpose, when to melt into a doorway, and in critical, frozen moments, when absolute stillness is the key to safety. It is a continuous, low-grade navigation of risk. This instinct is not paranoia. It is a form of street literacy. It's reading the body language of a group of young men on a corner, noticing which stores have their shutters suddenly down in the middle of the day, sensing when a bus route has gone quiet. It is transmitted through generations and shared in hushed conversations. Avoid that area after dark. Don't use your phone at that stoplight. This heightened state creates a peculiar form of fatigue. It is exhausting to be perpetually alert. Yet, it also breeds a unique appreciation for moments of true peace and a deep, nonverbal camaraderie with fellow residents who share this unspoken knowledge. The survival instinct becomes an internal compass, a set of algorithms running in the background of every decision, from the mundane to the critical, defining the very rhythm of daily life in the city. Chapter 16, The Loneliness of Crowds. This is one of Rio's most profound existential paradoxes, a metropolis of intense physical proximity that can breed a deep, cavernous loneliness. Crushed against strangers in a packed subway car at rush hour, swaying in a sea of bodies during a New Year's celebration on Copacabana, one can feel utterly, atomically alone. The crowd becomes a suffocating blanket of anonymity, the laughter and chatter around you amplifying your own internal silence. It is the loneliness of being a single story in a library of millions, where no one knows your title. This urban loneliness is amplified by the city's very geography and social fabric. In vertical condominiums, people live stacked atop one another in isolated bubbles, their interactions limited to the elevator ride. In dense favelas, while community ties are strong, the pressure of collective struggle can also make individual suffering feel like a private burden not to be shared. The city's emphasis on external beauty and joyful performance can make internal pain feel like a personal failure. Social media often exacerbates this, showcasing a curated Rio of endless gatherings, deepening the sense of missing out. The loneliness is not about being physically alone, but about feeling unseen in one's complexity, disconnected amidst the frenzy. It has the quiet agony of being surrounded by life, yet feeling one's own vitality go unnoticed. A solitary island in the city's vibrant, noisy archipelago. Chapter 17. Nights of Fear and Hope. The night in Rio is a chameleon, shifting colors with the mood of its streets. Some nights are woven from threads of tension, the dread of a power outage, the listener for pop of fireworks mistaken for gunfire, the collective prayer for a quiet passage to dawn. Other nights are spun from gossamer dreams, of a better job whispered over beers, of a child's future imagined in a quiet living room, of music and friendship in a safe enclave. The city perpetually swings on this pendulum between the gravity of fear and the buoyancy of hope. Its destiny decided night by night, street by street. This duality defines the nocturnal rhythm. In the same city, a couple dances closely in a Lapa club, lost in the moment, while a mother in a distant suburb lies awake, listening for her teenage son's key in the door. A group of friends shares a barbecue on a rooftop, their laughter piercing the sky, while a community WhatsApp group buzzes with tense, coded messages about movement on the hill. The night holds space for both the student burning the midnight oil for a better future and the trafficker conducting his business in the shadows. Hope and fear are not just emotions. They are active forces shaping behavior. Fear dictates routes and schedules. Hope fuels the plans made in kitchens and backyards. Every morning that arrives peacefully is a small victory for hope. Every incident that shatters the dark tips the scale back. The night is Rio's true emotional barometer, an endless cycle of holding one's breath and daring to dream. Chapter 18. Stories that die unheard. Rio is a vast, humming machine that generates countless human stories, most of which are consumed by its own noise. Lives of quiet heroism, of deep love, of unique wisdom, are lived out in small apartments and on crowded corners, only to vanish without an archive or an epitaph. The elderly woman who is the unofficial historian of her building. The street vendor with a philosopher's insight. The retired sailor who could chart the stars. Their entire universes fade when they do. The city entombs these epic, untold narratives in its asphalt and in the roots of its flamboyant trees, a silent, limitless library of lost biographies. This erasure is a profound kind of violence. It denies legacy and meaning to lives that were rich with experience. The oral histories of a favela's founding generation disappear with the last elder who remembers. The nuanced story of a migrant's journey from the interior is reduced to a statistic. This loss is not merely sentimental. It deprives the city of its own full memory, of the wisdom and cautionary tales embedded in those lives. In the absence of official recognition, people create their own archives. The photos pinned to a bar's wall, the name of a local legend spray-painted on a mural, the stories repeated in family kitchens. These are fragile, decentralized attempts to resist oblivion. Yet, for every story preserved, 1,000 are lost, their whispers drowned out by the city's relentless soundtrack, their experiences dissolving into the urban ether, making Rio a city of infinite, unmarked graves for dreams and memories. Chapter 19. The strength of its people. The soul of Rio is not found in its stone monuments or its geographic curves, but in the spirit of the Carioca. It is a resilience that is flexible, yet unbreakable, like the native Pobrazil. It is a creativity that conjures feasts from little and finds rhythm in chaos. It is a dark, swift, self-deprecating humor that serves as both shield and salve. Above all, it is a stubborn, exuberant, life-affirming will to seek and create joy. To dance in the living room, even if you can't go to the square, to find a reason to celebrate in the teeth of adversity. They are the city's true masterpiece. This strength is not a naive optimism, but a forged, hard-won philosophy. It is the mother who organizes a community cleanup when the city council doesn't show. It is the teenager who teaches himself graphic design on a public library computer. It is the baiana who sells her acaraj with regal pride. It's in the intricate social networks of favor and reciprocity, the jitanhoth that solve problems bureaucracy cannot. This resilience is often romanticized, but it is born of sheer necessity. The people carry the city's weight on their shoulders, cushioning its failures with their own ingenuity and spirit. Their strength is what makes the city's beauty meaningful and its tragedies bearable. They are the living engine that powers Rio, not with fossil fuels, but with an immense renewable resource of wit, warmth, and an unkillable belief in the next sunrise, the next samba, the next chance to turn struggle into something resembling grace. Chapter 2. Oh, the Rio you never forget. Once this Rio imprints itself on you, the real city behind the postcard facade, it becomes a permanent part of your consciousness. It rewires your understanding of urban life, beauty, and struggle. This is not the Rio you simply photograph and leave. It is the Rio that accompanies you home, that echoes in your thoughts during quiet moments. It is the city of heartbreaking contrast and indomitable spirit, of wounds that shine. It stays with you, a complex, lingering emotion, a mix of awe, sorrow, and profound respect long after the sound of the waves has faded from your ears. This is the Rio that truly, unforgettably, matters. This unforgettable Rio is a ghost that alters your perception of other cities. You find yourself comparing their textures, their sounds, their social gaps. The memory is a specific smell of ocean, rain, and diesel. A specific taste of bitter coffee and sweet pio de queijo. A specific feeling of the sun on your skin and the alertness in your spine. It is the haunting eyes of a child vendor on Copacabana, the triumphant smile of a samba dancer in a community square, the weary dignity of an old man watching the world from his doorstep. This Rio does not offer easy answers or resolutions. It offers a confrontation with life in its most raw and vibrant form. It teaches you that joy and pain are not opposites but companions. That resilience is the most beautiful human trait, and that a city, like a person, is most compelling, not in its perfection, but in its flawed, fierce, and unforgettable humanity. To know this Rio is to carry a piece of the world's beautiful, broken heart within you forever.